Next is the subtractive method. If you go out into the forest and cut down a tree, and then take that tree into a sawmill and cut it up into smaller pieces, you're subtracting, right? You're taking away from the whole. So milling, drilling, turning, grinding, cutting, these are all subtractive methods of manufacturing. So let's look at a subtractive way to make the same part that we just made. So you'll be required to make this part also. What if we started with a big cube and then we took this little part away, this shape? We would have something that looked like this, wouldn't we? Not our complete part though. We still have some material right here that needs to be removed. So we'll subtract a cube, 0.75 by 0.75 by 0.75, and when you subtract that from this shape, this part is removed, and there you go. There's our complete part. So that's what we're going to try this time. So first step, we need to draw a rectangle that's 2.25 by 1.5. Let's get to it. So we need to start a new part. What do we do with this part? Well, we've saved it, right? If you click on the little icon of the floppy disk, you'll have it saved. And you could close it, or you can just, if you want to compare, go to My Home, and we can start a whole new part. All right, you don't want to start a new sketch. You want to start a new part. So we click on Part, and now we're ready to go. We're going to go ahead and start saving right away. So click Save, and you notice that it took us right to Unit 4 on our USB drive. And there's also this old versions here. It saves older versions. Sometimes you can open these up and access them if you lose the newer versions. Sometimes that'll work out for you. So don't mind that. That just pops up wherever you save Autodesk files. It's going to create a folder there with old versions in it. This is going to have the same name as the first one, except it's subtractive. Subtractive. And we hit save. You want to not fall into the habit of just labeling things part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. When you look at those parts in your folders, in your memory devices, you're not going to know what they are. They need descriptive names. All right, so let's get started with Start 2D Sketch. Again, we're going to choose the XY plane. Again, I'm going to hold down the mouse wheel as a button to move this so that we can draw here in the upper right-hand quadrant. Instead of drawing lines, let's speed things up by using the rectangle. So I'm just above and to the right of the origin. I click once, I move up and to the right, and wow, what were those dimensions? So we go back. We can see that it's 2.25 inches across the top, that's our width, and our height is 1.5. So 2.25, tab, 1.5. And when I click tab again, you can see that we've gone off the screen portion that we have in front of us, so I just click on front. And when I'm doing this, you notice the lines disappear, but they're back again. Okay, so I'm just going to click enter and click front one more time, and there we go. Now we can see everything. So right click and click OK. That takes us out of the rectangle tool, and then we click Finish Sketch. And I'm going to click on the little house so that we can see the whole portion of our rectangle that we just drew. So we choose Extrude. It shows the profile for us because there only was one profile. So an inch isn't right, and 3/4 of an inch isn't right because we need this to be 2 cubes deep. Well, 0.75 plus 0.75 is 1.5. So same as 6/4, right? You had 3/4, that's 0.75, and 3 more quarters, 0.75. You get 6/4. So that's good. We're going to click OK. Click the house one more time, it resizes it, and that's excellent. Now we need to start taking material away. So we're going to start on this surface here, and we're going to start cutting in to this part. So we're going to start with a 2D sketch. And you notice the surface that's red. We're going to click on that. I hold down my mouse wheel and move this to center it up. And again, I want to draw that outline quickly all the way around this part, and I could do that with Project Geometry. This projects the geometry of the extrusion and the sketch that we've already done and projects it into this sketch, the sketch that we're currently working on. So that's the point of projecting the geometry. We want to make sure that the geometry for these are lined up and connected. So we click and we get that yellow border, so we know it worked. We click rectangle, and I'm not going to draw the shape that we're removing. All right, let's go back again. Remember, we need to remove this shape. This is the shape we need to remove. We could draw line, 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 or draw a rectangle here and another rectangle here and delete the material in between, the line in between them. But if we just quickly draw this rectangle and then tell it to choose all the other material that's not that rectangle, we'll accomplish our goal and it'll be faster. All right, speed's good. So I chose rectangle again, remember? And we go to the far left-hand, bottom left-hand corner. We wait and make sure we get the green dot. We click once, we move up and to the right, and we choose 0.75, tab 0.75. Tab to go back and preview it. And that should seem very familiar because we just did this for the additive part. But we extruded it outward, and we're going to do something different this time. A little bit different. So that looks good. We click right-click OK, and I did not click Enter. 0.75, tab 0.75. And there we go. Remember, I could tab in between those. So that looks good. That's a good preview of it. So we're going to click Enter, approve that, and then we'll right-click and say OK. Now we can finish the sketch. We're going to choose Extrude. And again, see the red arrow? And it's highlighted blue. It wants us to choose the profile. Is it this one or is it this one? Well, last time we added here. Now we want to cut here. So we're going to choose this as our profile. But it added. What are we going to do? Well, there's a couple different options we could do. We want to cut away. Right now, this one, this choice here, that's for join, right? Joining and adding more material. But the one right below it is cut. Okay? If we choose that one, it'll cut the material away in the profile that we chose. Boom, there you go. See, it's cutting all that material away. The other choice would be for us to, instead of going direction 1, to slide on over here to direction 2. If we choose direction 2, that's going to make it extrude the other way, and there's already material there, so it's going to cut that material away instead of joining to it. So we click there, and it didn't automatically. Sometimes it automatically goes to cut. Because I was playing around with it, it didn't. So that's okay. We'll change that to cut. Now, that's too much material. If we go back to our PowerPoint, remember we only wanted to cut away 3/4 of an inch and leave 3/4 of an inch behind. So we need to change this to 0.75. So right there, change that to 0.75. Now we look at our preview, and that looks good. So we choose OK. Great. We all done? No, there's still material here that we need to get rid of. So that'll be our next step. We're going to come up and create a 2D sketch again. We're going to create it on this surface. Push down the wheel so I can see everything. It's nice and centered. We're going to choose Project Geometry so that it highlights all the way around that square. So that way we make sure we get our green dot. I chose Rectangle. And we're going to choose the upper right-hand corner, get the green dot, click once, left click, move downward, type in 0.75 for the width, 0.75 for the height. Looks good. We tabbed in between those two, and we'll hit enter. Right click, OK, finish sketch. Now we need to cut this piece away, so we choose extrude. Again, it's asking for us what profile. We choose this box right here, and instead of direction 1, direction 2. And you notice when I chose direction 2, it went to cut, because I hadn't clicked on join. So it went immediately to cut this time. And it went 0.75. That's fine. We also could have said, instead of measuring it for distance, we could have said to next. Then it would go from one surface to the next surface. Or we could have said all. Just take it all away, right? Instead of measuring the distance. So we have many different options here. All right, solid, that's good. And we click OK. There you go. There's our subtractive part. You notice the browser looks a little different than the additive part. There's 3 extrusions. When we did additive, there was only 2 extrusions. But the part itself is the same. Let's go ahead and hit the home, and then switch to subtractive and click the home there. And as we toggle from one to the other, it's exactly the same. All right, very good. So that's how to create the additive and the subtractive parts. So these parts are very, very similar to your puzzle cube parts. Their dimensions are very similar. They're based on the 3/4 inch cube. So there's a lot of techniques here that you can apply to creating your puzzle cube parts. Thanks for listening.